Hey everybody, it's Bob Dolgan here with Josh Engel again for another episode of This Week in Birding. So let's get right to it and talk a little bit about the big news over the past week here in town. Monty and Rose, the endangered piping plovers of Montrose Point, have returned. They went all the way down to their wintering grounds that are much farther south, about 1,000 miles from here for Rose. Rose was photographed in Florida over the winter. Monty, we think, went down to the Gulf Coast of Texas and maybe Mexico, but they're back, and that's just been kind of a thrill to see. And even though we can't experience them firsthand, there have been some great photos coming out of the beach at Montrose, and I think for me, like the excitement here is that they came right back to where they were in August of last year, and that's just amazing. I guess it's just experiencing bird migration or the migration of two individual birds is super cool, and I know everybody across Chicago has been rooting for them, so this is a big moment. But Josh, welcome your thoughts too.
Oh, it's the good news story that we all need right now. Just amazing. Birds' ability to navigate so precisely to end up, you know, not just in the same area that they nested before, but the exact same beach. And it sounds like they're even, digging scrapes in the
Yeah,
exact same part of the beach where they nested last year. So it's amazing to have them back. I hope that news keeps coming out of there, so the city so everyone in the city can keep up, because I know there's a lot
yeah,
of people who are invested in them, and just really care about those two birds and their offspring. So yeah, it's great news, and I look forward to hearing more about them. And I think we hit briefly on this topic in our Monty and Rose live show last week, but
yeah,
if they could get a webcam up, they would be extremely popular. And I guess there
yeah.
maybe is some talk of doing that. So that would be pretty incredible. And then we could keep up not just with weekly updates or occasional updates, but everyone could know sort of what's going on in real time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it looks like the scrapes are over near where the nest was last year. If people remember that area by the bank swallow colony, there are some that are a little farther to the west, closer to the famous floodle, the flooded area, the puddle where their young ones were feeding a lot, and where the adults were feeding a lot last year. So it's interesting to see how where the nest, the scrape placement is this year, and it'll be really exciting to see hopefully eggs being laid in one of those scrapes soon. And I believe the uh, IDNR and Fish and Wildlife plans to put another exclosure over the nest again to protect from predators. So that but yeah, exactly. I think if we could have a webcam or a nest cam, I've heard some rumors that might be possible. If that is possible, that would be so exciting, and it couldn't come at a better time for all of us who are kind of on the other side of the lakefront barricades and just like, oh my gosh, like, can we, like, what's going on over there? Like,
Yeah.
and just missing, feel like we're missing out a bit. So, but yeah, it's exciting, and I think it will be interesting to see also in year two that now it's like May 7th, and the first scrapes last year were, I think, about late May, later in May. So now these birds, as they're Monty and Rose, are about 3 years old. They're more experienced. They've had a successful clutch, so it'll be interesting to see what this year holds. I mean, from what I understand from the experts, that I believe piping plovers can have multiple clutches in one season. That might be a lot to ask for and hope for, but anyway, if we can get another successful clutch.
Yeah, and you also wonder, last year, of course, they didn't ban the chicks because there's, so much stress for those birds involved in being nesting on such an enormously popular beach for humans. So dealing with dogs and people all the time. But, if people are not allowed back on Montrose Beach this summer, maybe they could even think about banning the chicks this time, so we can get even more information about where the chicks are going, where the chicks end up next summer, their survival. So that would be really interesting too, because that was sort of, in a way, a missed opportunity last summer. Not
Right.
because nobody was thinking about it, just because
Right.
that the situation was not right for banding the chicks. But maybe that's something that they could consider doing this year, given that the beach could be empty when the chicks are out and when they're appropriate age for banding.
Absolutely. And just thinking about, born and raised Chicago chicks and where they would then go in the winter would be exciting if they could be relocated by way of their bands. So, kind of cool.
We get them to put some light blue and white and red bands on their legs to represent the city.
Yeah, yeah,
I
absolutely.
don't,
Yeah, we get
I
a little
don't,
Chicago pride.
yeah, I don't think the scientists who ban them take requests, but never hurts to ask.
Yeah, well, there was a bird up in Michigan that was called Packer Boy for its green and gold
That's
bands.
right.
So, although I think that was by
Probably
coincidence.
coincidence, yeah.
Yeah, but maybe we can make an ask.
Yeah.
So, well, turning to other news coming up, May 9th is Global Big Day internationally. So it's a day when people in about 170 countries are submitting lists to eBird, and this is an event of Cornell Lab of Ornithology, which has created the eBird database, which is the most widely used citizen science database in the world. And so it's a fun day to participate in because we can share in the joy of birding from wherever we are. It might be our backyards here in Chicago, but people all over the world are participating, and some of the countries with the top totals are places in South America where
Yeah.
people are seeing just huge numbers of species on a given day. So we can kind of participate in a small piece of that by being right here in town. There's also something uh, that I came across that I wanted to share, and that is Cook County was second in the nation in terms of checklists submitted last year on the date of Global Big Day. And so there's a chance that we could end up number one in the country, which I think is just such a great statement for the Chicago birding community and for Chicago birds in general to have it. There's just a huge opportunity to raise awareness of that fact, that we have a wonderfully rich birding community, and that this is just a fantastic metropolitan area for
Yeah.
birds and bird habitat.
Yeah, and I know you told me in the past that the first place county for a number of checklists submitted was Lucas County in Northwest Ohio. And of course, the reason for that is because there's so many birders visiting McGee Marsh and the places surrounding that, Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge and those places. And that area is just not going to get the coverage this year because the festival that attracts the people, the biggest week in American birding, had to be canceled for coronavirus reasons. And it's really sort of sad because that festival generates a huge amount of revenue. It extends the tourist season for that part of Ohio and generates a lot of revenue. So it's really, in a way, a sad story that they're not going to be able to generate so many checklists this year. But it's very different than Cook County because we don't get a lot of birding tourists here, but we have an amazing, big, and active homegrown, so to speak, community of birders that gets out and submits all these checklists. And the coincidence of the spring bird count landing on the same day as Global Big Day certainly enhances the number of checklists as well. So I think there's a good chance that Cook County will end up with the highest number of checklists of any county in the U.S. for the Global Big Day this Saturday.
Yeah, and yeah, certainly it's unfortunate that so many birding festivals have had to be canceled. However, people are getting creative, and in this time of social distancing, there's been a lot of news reports about birding being on the increase, the number of lists being submitted going up, the number of downloads of the Merlin ID app going up. So there's maybe somewhat of a silver lining, but certainly, hey, I'm from Ohio myself, and I've been to McGee Marsh, so I totally, am, also sad that the biggest week in American birding isn't happening this year. But yeah, what a great place that is, that McGee Marsh and Crane Creek and Ottawa National
Hmm.
Wildlife Refuge. I mean, those are incredible places, and there's just there's migratory phenomena that happens there that rival maybe anywhere on the continent. So
Yeah, it's an amazing place in spring. It's become globally recognized. People come literally from all over the world to enjoy spring migration there. So it's really a cool thing. But, Chicago is, Montrose is not the same as McGee Marsh. It doesn't quite get the same numbers.
yeah,
But, it's really, Montrose really can hold its own against some of the top migratory hotspots around the country. So we're really lucky in that way. And it's in Montrose or Jackson Park. These places are in a urban center. It's really a testament to the work that's done by both the park district and by the volunteer stewards to make these places so incredible for bird life. And in recent years, we've seen that an emphasis on creating habitat on the Chicago lakefront for migratory birds, and we've birders like us have been able to enjoy those results. And a day like the spring bird count is so important because it's this long-term data set that I can't remember exactly what year spring bird count started, but it's been going on for
yeah.
decades now.
I think since the 70s. Yeah,
Since the 70s, this long-term data set that's centrally, there's a database that's kept where you can go in and actually see trends in bird populations over that period of time. So I think a lot of birders enjoy having their birding work towards a purpose. Not, of course, we all love going out and enjoying birds, but if we can submit eBird lists or submit data to the spring bird count and make our birding useful in a way, in this case, in the citizen science project, I think a lot of birders appreciate that. So we can learn
absolutely.
learn a lot from the efforts, and it could be used in conservation efforts even down the road as we understand more about population trends in the migratory birds that pass through here.
Yeah, and sometimes the data is like, even year to year, small like blips in the data can be detected that are meaningful. And it's really through the mighty efforts of average people out there just going out and counting and submitting data. And yes, so the spring bird count coincides with Global Big Day. Global Big Day coincides with spring bird count. However you look at it on Saturday, people are going to be out birding and recording their list, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And
and we should mention that I believe it's based out of the Illinois Natural History Survey.
Yeah.
And Tara Beveroth has been in charge of the spring bird count efforts for a number of years now and does a great job with it. And here in Cook County, it's Alan Anderson who coordinates the Cook County efforts. And it's an enormous job to organize and compile all those data. So those two really, and the county compilers from all the other 101 counties around Illinois,
Right.
deserve a big thank you from all of us for their Herculean efforts.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just like it's people writing, like handwriting lists on pieces of paper and turning them in. I mean, this is like, this goes back to the roots of listing and birding. So this is, and it is a mighty effort and a really meaningful one. So I was going to turn to our bird of the week, which is the Baltimore Oriole. The Baltimore Oriole is actually a blackbird species, which is kind of funny. It's in the family Icteridae. I think is that how it's pronounced, Josh? Icteridae.
Close enough.
It's an icterid.
I would say Icteridae, but yeah.
Icteridae. Okay, sorry.
Same idea.
It's the first time I think I've ever said that word out aloud to someone. So thank you. Icteridae. And what can be said? This is just like one of the most stunning and showy birds that comes through our area. It sort of announces itself with its lilting song in backyards and parks and neighborhoods all over the area. I'm going to put up a photo that Pam Carlson shared from her Northwest Side backyard of 4 males beautifully, like in one single shrub. But,
very lucky. That's Well, Pam's got a special yard, but I mean, one of the things about Baltimore Orioles, especially males, they're so bright that a lot of people notice them, even people who do not consider themselves birders. They'll drop into a backyard for a morning, especially this time of year during migration, and they get noticed. So if you monitor like birding Facebook groups this time of year,
Yeah.
there's a lot of pictures of Baltimore Orioles because they're so showy, so beautiful, and they can be attracted to backyards especially using oranges or grape jelly. Those seem to be the two most popular options. And you can even buy Oriole specific feeders where you can attach oranges or have a bottle of grape jelly. And so those are great ways to attract Baltimore Orioles, and other, those same feeders can also attract other birds like the Baltimore Oriole's cousin, the Orchard Oriole, which is less common. I've been seeing quite a few pictures of the Orchard Orioles from people's backyards, but the fact that we get this bird that, and sort of like the piping plovers that we talked about earlier, Baltimore Orioles are long distance migrants. So all the ones that we're seeing spent the winter probably in Central America, and have flown all this way over the last few weeks or month to grace us with their presence in our backyards. And of course, Baltimore Orioles also nest around the Chicago area. So a lot of the ones that people are seeing in their backyards, that's not necessarily good nesting habitat for them. Those ones are just passing through. But Baltimore Orioles do nest in just about every forest reserve in the Chicago area.
Yeah, and they have these sort of hanging nests, like if you, and almost somewhat common if you're looking around like sort of tall trees on near park fields or woodland edges, and there's sort of hanging up there. It's pretty neat, and the females are not as showy, and they can almost be a little scarcer, I would say, and that they blend in a bit more just because they're more yellow to even almost a light, I don't know if you'd say light green, but a yellowish tone. And Orchard Orioles are awesome too. And they're sort of, they have this like really deep chestnut color on the males. And they're always a fun bird to spot because they're I don't know, I found them maybe a little bit, maybe it's just their coloration, but they're a little bit less prominent than the Baltimores. So.
Yeah, and I sort of think of Baltimore Oriole as one of the trifecta of very colorful backyard birds this time of year. You have Baltimore Oriole, rose-breasted grosbeak, and indigo bunting, all of which the males are so spectacular and conspicuous and colorful, and those are all coming through right now. But all of those have females that are much less colorful, which is pretty typical of these long-distance migrants, neotropical migrants, where the males are showy and colorful, and the females are not quite as brilliantly colored typically for reasons of camouflage. As they sit on the nests, they can be inconspicuous.
Well, it's another great week for migrants. The weather is going to be it's been chilly. Gosh, it's going to be chilly again, but I do suspect we'll see some movement over the next few days, but anyway, there's always something new in spring, which is
and we should invite people, people who are watching, if they want to post pictures of their Orioles, grosbeaks, or whatever they're seeing in their backyards to the This Week in Birding Facebook page. We'd love to see some of that, or if you have a bird that you can't identify, post it there, and maybe we can help out.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Glad to, we are always glad to continue this conversation throughout the week as well. That's it for this week, but thank you so much, Josh. And we'll look forward to next week and hopefully have some more updates from Montrose Point, and we'll again discuss This Week in Birding for the second week of May. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks.